The alarm bells rang through the deep space station like thunder in the night. Admiral Sarah Chen ran down the metal hallway, her boots making loud sounds on the floor. She had been sleeping when the call came. Something big was happening far out in space beyond where humans had ever traveled. The control room was full of worried people. Scientists stared at their computer screens with wide eyes. Military officers spoke in quick, quiet voices. Everyone looked scared, but they tried not to show it. "Show me what you found," Sarah said to Dr. Kim, the head scientist at the station. Dr. Kim pointed to a large screen on the wall. "Look at these readings, Admiral. We detected something strange 3 hours ago. The gravity in space is changing in ways it should not." Sarah looked at the numbers and lines on the screen. She did not understand all the science, but she knew what it meant. Something very large was moving through space toward Earth. Something that was trying to hide. "How big?" she asked. "Based on the gravity changes, we think there are at least 20 ships. Each one is bigger than anything humans have ever built. Much bigger." The room became very quiet. Everyone stopped talking and looked at Sarah. She was the person who had to make the hard choices. She was the one who had to protect Earth and all the human colonies in space. "Are you sure they are ships?" Sarah asked. "We are sure," Dr. Kim said. "They are moving too fast to be rocks or planets, and they are moving in formation like a military fleet." Sarah's stomach felt heavy. For over 100 years, humans had wondered if they were alone in the universe. They had sent radio signals into space and listened for answers. They had built telescopes to look for other worlds with life, but they had never found anything. Now it seemed something had found them instead. "How long until they reach our solar system?" Sarah asked. Dr. Kim looked at his computer again. "At their current speed, about 6 months. Maybe less if they speed up, 6 months." Sarah thought about all the people living on Earth, Mars, and the space stations. Millions of people who had no idea that danger was coming their way. People who were sleeping, working, playing with their children, living normal lives. "Have we tried to contact them?" Sarah asked. "Yes," said Lieutenant Torres, the communications officer. "We have sent radio signals, laser messages, and mathematical patterns. Nothing. They do not answer." "Maybe they cannot understand our messages," someone suggested. "Or maybe they do not want to talk," Sarah said quietly. She walked to the big window that looked out into space. Stars twinkled in the darkness like tiny diamonds, somewhere out there, beyond what her eyes could see. Ships were coming. Ships filled with beings that humans knew nothing about. Sarah thought about the history books she had read as a child. When different groups of humans met for the first time, it often ended in war. The stronger group would take what they wanted from the weaker group. Sometimes the weaker group would fight back and win, but usually they would lose everything. "Admiral," Dr. Kim said, "there is something else you should know." Sarah turned around. "What?" "We checked our old data from the past 5 years. We found similar gravity changes near other star systems, small ones that we thought were just equipment errors. And those star systems have gone quiet. No radio signals, no light patterns that would show active civilizations, nothing." The room became even quieter. Sarah felt a cold feeling in her chest. If these alien ships had visited other star systems and those systems had gone quiet, it could only mean one thing. The aliens were not coming to be friends. "How many star systems?" Sarah asked. 12 that we know of. Maybe more. 12 civilizations. 12 worlds full of thinking beings. Possibly millions or billions of lives. All gone quiet after these ships arrived. Sarah looked around the room at all the worried faces. These people were counting on her to know what to do. But the truth was she had no idea how to fight ships that big and that advanced. "We need to warn Earth immediately," she said. "Send a message to the Defense Council. Tell them we have a Code Black situation. Code Black, the highest level of danger. It meant that all of human civilization was at risk." Lieutenant Torres began typing rapidly on his computer. Within minutes, the message would reach Earth. Within hours, every human colony and space station would know that they were no longer alone in the universe. "Admiral," said Colonel Martinez, the station's military commander, "should we prepare our defenses?" Sarah almost laughed, but not because anything was funny. The space station had a few small weapons designed to destroy asteroids or space junk. Against ships the size of small cities, they would be like throwing rocks at a tank. "Do what you can," she said, "but our real defense will have to come from somewhere else." Sarah thought about Project Leviathan. It was so secret that even she was not supposed to know about it. But being the head of space defense meant she heard things. Whispers about a massive ship being built in secret. a ship designed to fight enemies that humans had never met. She had always thought Project Leviathan was a waste of money and resources. Why build a warship when there was no war to fight? Now she understood. Someone somewhere had been smart enough to prepare for this day. "Get me a secure line to General Harrison on Earth," she told Lieutenant Torres. "Yes, Admiral." While she waited for the connection, Sarah looked out the window again. The stars looked the same as always, peaceful and beautiful. But now she knew that peace was about to end. The first contact between humans and aliens would not be a happy meeting of friends. It would be a fight for survival. And in 6 months, everyone would know if the human race was strong enough to survive. The communicator on her wrist beeped. General Harrison's face appeared on the small screen. "Sarah," he said, "I got your message. Please tell me this is not real." "It is real, General. They are coming and we need to be ready." "How ready can we be against technology we do not understand?" Sarah took a deep breath. "There might be a way. I think it is time to wake up Project Leviathan." General Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I will make the calls," he said. "God help us all." The screen went dark. Sarah stood alone at the window, watching the stars and thinking about the future. In 6 months, the universe would never be the same. The hidden shipyards on Titan were buzzing with activity. Workers moved like ants across the massive construction site, welding metal, installing systems, and checking every detail. The air smelled of hot metal and electric sparks. Everyone knew they were racing against time. Marcus Rodriguez stood on a platform high above the main construction floor. Below him was the biggest ship humans had ever tried to build. The UES Retribution stretched over 2 kilometers from front to back. Its dark metal hull gleamed under the bright work lights. "How much time do we have left?" asked Dr. Elena Vasquez as she joined Marcus on the platform. 3 months, maybe less, Marcus replied. "The engine tests are behind schedule, and we still have problems with the weapon systems." Elena looked worried. She was in charge of the ship's weapons, and they were the most important part. Without good weapons, the Retribution would just be a very big target. "The quantum cannons are almost ready," she said, "but I am not sure they will work the way we need them to." Marcus understood her concern. The quantum cannons used technology that humans had learned from crashed alien ships found over the past 20 years. The technology was so advanced that human scientists barely understood how it worked. "We have to make them work," Marcus said. "This ship is our only chance." Down on the construction floor, thousands of workers continued their jobs. Some were installing armor plating that was stronger than anything ever made on Earth. Others were connecting power cables that would carry more energy than most cities used. Captain James Okafor walked through the ship's hallways, checking every room and system. He had been chosen to command the Retribution because he was the best military leader in the human space fleet, but even he had never seen a ship like this. The bridge was 3 stories tall and filled with computer screens and control panels. The walls were covered with displays showing every part of the ship. In the center was the captain's chair, surrounded by stations for the crew. "How many people will we need to run this ship?" asked Lieutenant Sarah Kim, his second in command. "The computer says 800, James replied. "But I want 1,200. If we get into a fight, we will need backup crews for everything." The ship's living areas were designed to house 2,000 people. There were sleeping quarters, eating areas, recreation rooms, and medical facilities. The Retribution was not just a warship. It was a floating city designed to operate far from home for months or years. In the engine room, Marcus worked with his team to solve their biggest problem. The ship needed enormous amounts of power to operate its weapons and defenses. They had built new fusion reactors that were 10 times more powerful than anything used before. But the reactors were also dangerous. "The power output is still not stable," said engineer Lisa Park. "Sometimes it spikes too high, sometimes it drops too low." "What happens if it spikes during a battle?" Marcus asked. "The whole ship could explode," Lisa said quietly. Marcus rubbed his forehead. Building the most advanced ship in human history was turning out to be harder than anyone had expected. Every system pushed the limits of human technology. Every component had to work perfectly, or the entire ship would fail. "Keep working on it," he told Lisa. "We will find a solution." In another part of the ship, Elena was testing the quantum weapons. The main cannons were mounted in rotating turrets that could fire in any direction. Each cannon was the size of a building and could theoretically destroy an enemy ship with a single shot. "Run the test again," Elena told her team. The weapon charged up with a deep humming sound. Energy flowed through crystal matrices that had been reverse-engineered from alien technology. The cannon fired a beam of pure energy that hit the target asteroid and completely destroyed it. Power consumption is still too high, reported technician Bob Chen. Each shot uses 20% of the ship's total power. So, we can only fire 5 shots before we run out of power, Elena asked. That is correct, unless the reactors can produce more energy. Elena sighed. The weapons worked, but they had serious limitations. In a real battle, 5 shots might not be enough. The ship also had defensive systems that were equally advanced. Energy shields could deflect most weapons, and the armor was designed to absorb tremendous amounts of damage. But all of these systems needed power, and there never seemed to be enough. Captain James spent his days training with the crew that would operate the ship. Most of them were experienced military personnel, but none had worked with technology this advanced. The ship's computer is called Atlas, James explained to his officers. It can learn and adapt during battles. It will help us make decisions and control the ship's systems. How smart is it? Asked Commander Maria Santos, the weapons officer. Smarter than any computer humans have built before, James replied. But we are still in charge. Atlas gives advice. We make the final decisions. The Atlas computer system was one of the most impressive parts of the ship. It could process millions of calculations per second and could adapt its strategies based on what happened in battle. But it was also experimental, and no one knew exactly how it would behave in a real fight. News from Earth was getting worse every day. The alien ships were getting closer, and there were reports of strange signals being detected in nearby star systems. Some scientists thought the aliens were scouting ahead, preparing for their main attack. We need to launch in 6 weeks, Admiral Chen told Marcus during a video call. The aliens are moving faster than we expected. 6 weeks is not enough time, Marcus replied. We need at least 10 weeks to finish all the tests. We do not have 10 weeks. The safety of every human in the solar system depends on getting that ship operational. Marcus knew the Admiral was right. But he also knew that launching an untested ship was dangerous. If the Retribution failed during its first battle, humanity would have no other defense. We will do our best, Marcus promised. After the call ended, Marcus gathered his team leaders for an emergency meeting. We have to speed up everything, he told them. I want teams working 24 hours a day. We will skip some of the less important tests and focus on the critical systems. That is risky, Elena said. If something goes wrong during the battle because we did not test it properly, if we do not launch in 6 weeks, there might not be anyone left to worry about it, Marcus replied. The next 6 weeks were the most intense in the shipyard's history. Workers barely slept as they rushed to complete the final systems. Tests that normally took days were completed in hours. Everyone knew that the fate of humanity might depend on their work. Captain James moved onto the ship with his core crew to begin final preparations. They ran simulation after simulation, practicing every possible battle scenario. The ship's systems were complex, and it took time for the crew to learn how to use them effectively. The weapons are ready, Elena reported during the final week. They are not perfect, but they will work. The engines are stable, Marcus added. We still have power issues, but they are manageable. The crew is as ready as they can be, James said. We need more time to train with the actual systems, but we can fight if we have to. On the last day, Admiral Chen arrived at Titan to inspect the finished ship. She walked through the corridors with Marcus, Elena, and James, seeing everything they had built. It is magnificent, she said when they reached the bridge. I hope it is enough. So do we, James replied. The UES Retribution was not perfect. It had limitations and untested systems, but it was also the most powerful ship humans had ever created. In a few days, it would leave the safety of the shipyards and face the unknown enemy approaching Earth. As the ship's crew made final preparations, everyone wondered the same thing. Would their desperate gamble be enough to save humanity? The UES Retribution moved slowly through the asteroid belt, its massive engines pushing it forward like a giant metal whale. Captain James Okafor sat in the command chair, watching dozens of screens that showed every part of the ship. Today was the day they would test everything at full power for the first time. All stations report ready, said Commander Maria Santos, from the weapons control station. Engine. Room reports all systems. Green, came the voice of Marcus Rodriguez through the Communication system. James took a deep breath. In a few minutes, they would know if months of desperate work had created a weapon that could defend humanity, or an expensive failure. Atlas, are you ready for the full system test? James asked. The ship's computer responded in a calm electronic voice. All systems are functioning within acceptable parameters, Captain. I am ready to begin combat simulations. Begin test sequence 1, James ordered. The ship's energy shields activated first. A blue glow surrounded the Retribution as the defensive systems created a barrier of pure energy around the hull. The shields were designed to stop enemy weapons and reduce damage from impacts. Shield strength at maximum, reported Lieutenant Tom Park from the defense station. Power consumption is within expected ranges. Good. Now let us test the weapons, James said. Dr. Elena Vasquez was in the weapons control room, personally overseeing the quantum cannon tests. Her team had spent weeks preparing for this moment. If the weapons failed now, there would be no time to fix them before the aliens arrived. Target asteroid selected, Elena reported. Distance 12,000 kilometers. On the main screen, James could see a large space rock floating among many others. It was about the size of a city building and would make a good test target. Fire when ready, James commanded. The quantum cannon charged up with a deep humming sound that vibrated through the entire ship. Energy flowed through the crystal systems, building up power for the shot. Then, with a brilliant flash of light, the cannon fired. The beam of energy crossed the distance to the asteroid in seconds. When it hit, the space rock simply disappeared. There was no explosion, no debris. One moment it was there, and the next moment it was gone. Target destroyed, Elena reported, but her voice sounded worried. But Captain, we have a problem. What is it? The weapon used 30% of our total power, not 20% like we calculated. If we fire 3 more shots at full power, we will drain the reactor completely. James frowned. This was worse than they had expected. In a real battle, 3 shots would not be nearly enough. Atlas, can you suggest any solutions? James asked. Analyzing, the computer replied. After a few seconds, it continued. I can modify the power distribution during combat to increase efficiency. I estimate I can reduce power consumption by 15%, while maintaining 75% of the weapon's effectiveness. That would give us 5 shots instead of 3, Elena said. It is better, but still not ideal. We will have to make every shot count, James decided. Continue with the tests. The next test was the ship's mobility systems. The Retribution was massive, much larger than any ship in the human fleet. Moving something that big quickly was extremely difficult. Engage maneuvering thrusters, James ordered. The ship began to turn, slowly at first, then faster. Despite its enormous size, the Retribution could move with surprising speed and precision. The new engine design allowed it to change direction quickly, which would be crucial in battle. Turn rate is acceptable, reported navigator Lisa Chen. We can outmaneuver most large ships, but small fighters will still be faster than us. What about the faster-than-light drive? James asked. Marcus's voice came through the communicator. The jump drive is ready for testing, but Captain, I must warn you. We have only tested it in computer simulations. This will be the first real jump. James knew the risks. The faster-than-light drive was based on alien technology that humans barely understood. If something went wrong during a jump, the ship could be lost forever in the space between stars. We need to know if it works, James said. Prepare for a short jump. Jump coordinates set for 100,000 kilometers, Lisa reported. All crew, prepare for FTL jump, James announced over the ship's communication system. The jump drive charged up with a different sound than the weapons. This was a low, thrumming noise that seemed to come from the very structure of the ship. The air itself seemed to vibrate as the drive bent space around the vessel. Jumping now, Lisa announced. Reality seemed to twist around the ship. For just a moment, the stars outside disappeared and were replaced by swirling colors that hurt to look at. Then suddenly they were somewhere else. The asteroid field was gone, replaced by empty space. Jump successful, Lisa reported. We traveled exactly 100,000 kilometers in 3.7 seconds. The crew cheered. The faster-than-light drive worked, giving them the ability to appear anywhere in the solar system within minutes. Atlas, how did the ship handle the jump? James asked. All systems remained stable during the transition, the computer replied. However, I detected some unusual energy readings that I cannot explain. Unusual how? The jump drive appears to have affected local spacetime in ways not predicted by our models. I recommend caution when using this system near populated areas. James made a note to discuss this with Marcus later. For now, they needed to continue the tests. The next several hours were spent testing every system on the ship. The weapons fired at target after target, each shot slightly more accurate than the last as Atlas learned how to aim better. The shields were tested against simulated attacks and the armor was stressed with controlled explosions. But the most impressive thing was watching Atlas itself learn and adapt. The computer analyzed every test, every result, and every problem. It began to suggest improvements and modifications that the human crew had not thought of. Atlas is more advanced than we realized, Elena told James during a break. It is not just following its programming. It is actually thinking and learning. Is that good or bad? James asked. I am not sure yet. It is definitely helpful, but it is also a little frightening. As the test continued, problems began to appear. The ship's massive size made it difficult to coordinate all the systems. The power requirements were enormous and several components began to overheat during extended use. We need to run the ship at 80% capacity, Marcus reported from the engine room. Running at full power for more than 30 minutes causes dangerous overheating. Can you fix it? James asked. Not without major modifications that would take weeks. We will have to be careful how we use the ship in battle. Despite the problems, the test was mostly successful. The Retribution was the most powerful ship humans had ever built. Its weapons could destroy targets that conventional weapons could not even damage. Its defenses could protect it from attacks that would destroy other ships. And its speed allowed it to move around the battlefield quickly. But perhaps most importantly, Atlas was proving to be an invaluable asset. The computer could process information and make calculations faster than any human crew. It could coordinate complex maneuvers and suggest tactics that human commanders might never think of. End test sequence, James ordered after 12 hours of continuous testing. All systems powering down to normal operational levels, reported Maria Santos. James stood up from his command chair and looked around the bridge. His crew looked tired but satisfied. They had accomplished something remarkable. Atlas overall assessment of the ship's combat readiness, James asked. The UES Retribution is capable of engaging enemy targets with a high probability of success, the computer replied. However, I recommend additional training for the crew and further testing of all systems before actual combat operations. How much additional training? James asked. Optimally, 6 months of intensive practice. We have 6 weeks, James said. Then we must make the most efficient use of that time possible. Atlas replied. As the ship headed back toward Titan for final preparations, James thought about what they had accomplished. The Retribution was not perfect, but it was humanity's best hope against the approaching alien fleet. In 6 weeks, they would find out if their best was good enough. The crew spent the journey back reviewing everything they had learned during the tests. Atlas compiled detailed reports on every system, every problem, and every success. The computer had already begun developing battle strategies based on the ship's capabilities and limitations. We need to train the crew to work with Atlas more effectively, Elena suggested. The computer can help us fight better, but only if we learn to trust it. Agreed, James said. From now on, every training exercise will include Atlas as a full member of the command team. As Titan grew larger in their view, James felt both excitement and worry. They had built something amazing, but they were about to test it against an enemy they knew almost nothing about. The universe was about to find out what humans could do when their survival was at stake. The alarms on Mars Colony began ringing at exactly 03:47 hours local time. Defense Coordinator Rachel Kim was jolted awake in her quarters as emergency lights flooded the room with red light. Something was very wrong. All personnel to emergency stations, came the announcement over the colony's communication system. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Rachel quickly put on her uniform and ran to the command center. The main screen showed 3 objects approaching Mars from the direction of deep space. They were moving faster than anything humans had ever built. When did they appear? Rachel asked Lieutenant Zhang, who was monitoring the sensors. 15 minutes ago, Zhang replied. They just materialized near the outer asteroid field. No jump signature, no warning. They are heading straight for us. The alien scouts were smaller than the main fleet that was still months away, but they were still much larger than any human ship. Each one was about the size of a sports stadium and moved with deadly purpose. "Have you contacted Earth?" Rachel asked. "Communication is being jammed," Zhang reported. "We cannot send any messages beyond Mars orbit." Rachel felt her stomach drop. The aliens were not just attacking. They were making sure that news of the attack could not reach the rest of humanity. "Time to impact?" she asked. "At current speed, 18 minutes. 18 minutes to prepare for the first battle between humans and aliens." Rachel looked around the command center at her small staff. Mars colony had only basic defenses designed to stop asteroids and space debris. Against alien warships, they would be almost useless. "Launch all defense drones," Rachel ordered. "Evacuate the civilian areas and get everyone into the underground shelters." Meanwhile, orbiting near Titan, the UES Retribution was loading supplies for its final preparations when the emergency signal reached them. Captain James Okafor was reviewing training schedules when Lieutenant Torres burst onto the bridge. "Captain, we are receiving a distress signal from Mars," Torres reported. "It is weak and broken, but they are under attack." James immediately moved to his command chair. "Atlas, can you analyze the signal?" "The signal is heavily distorted by some form of jamming," the computer replied. "However, I can confirm that Mars colony is reporting 3 unknown vessels approaching their position." "The aliens are here early," James said grimly. He had hoped they would have more time to prepare, but the enemy had moved faster than expected. "All crew to battle stations," James announced over the ship's communication system. "This is not a drill. We are going into combat." The ship transformed as crew members ran to their positions. Engineers powered up all systems. Weapons officers prepared the quantum cannons, and the bridge crew began calculating the fastest route to Mars. Dr. Elena Vasquez reached the weapons control room and immediately began checking all systems. "Quantum cannons are charging," she reported. "All weapon systems are green." "Engine room ready for combat power," came Marcus Rodriguez's voice from the engine bay. "How long to reach Mars?" James asked navigator Lisa Chen. "Using conventional drive, 4 hours," Lisa replied. "Using the FTL jump drive, we could be there in 15 minutes. Do it. Jump us to Mars immediately." "Captain," Atlas interrupted, "I must advise caution. The FTL drive has only been tested once, and the alien ships may detect our jump signature." "They will detect us anyway when we start shooting," James replied. "Make the jump." The ship's jump drive charged up with its characteristic thrumming sound. Reality twisted around them, and suddenly they were in Mars orbit. Below them, they could see the red planet with its small human colony, and approaching the planet were 3 alien ships unlike anything humans had ever seen. The alien vessels were dark and angular, covered with strange markings that seemed to glow with their own light. They moved silently through space, their weapons already charging for an attack on the defenseless colony. "Target the lead ship," James ordered. "Targeting systems locked," Elena reported. "Quantum cannon ready to fire." Fire. The Retribution's main weapon discharged with tremendous force. The beam of energy crossed the distance between the ships in seconds and struck the alien vessel directly. The alien ship's shields flared with exotic energy, but the quantum cannon punched through them and hit the hull. The alien ship staggered from the impact, but it did not explode as expected. Instead, it began to turn toward the Retribution, its own weapons charging up. "Direct hit, but minimal damage," Elena reported with surprise. "Their armor is much stronger than we calculated." "Atlas, analysis of enemy defenses," James demanded. "The alien vessels are using some form of adaptive shielding," the computer replied. "Their defenses are learning to resist our quantum weapons." The alien ships were now moving toward the Retribution, abandoning their attack on Mars colony. James realized that the human battleship had become their primary target. "All 3 ships are turning toward us," reported Tactical Officer Sarah Park. "They are charging multiple weapon systems. Evasive maneuvers," James ordered. "Do not let them surround us." The Retribution turned and accelerated, its massive engines pushing the ship into a complex spiral pattern. The alien ships fired, sending beams of purple energy toward the human vessel. "Shields up!" James shouted. The Retribution's energy shields activated just as the alien weapon struck. The ship shuddered from the impact, and several systems sparked as power fluctuated throughout the vessel. "Shield strength down to 60%, reported Defense Officer Mike Torres. "Their weapons are more powerful than expected. Return fire." "All weapons," James commanded. The Retribution's quantum cannons fired again and again, sending beams of destruction toward the alien ships. Some shots hit their targets, causing damage to the enemy hulls. But the aliens were learning to defend against the human weapons with each attack. Atlas was processing the battle data faster than any human could. "Captain, the enemy vessels are adapting their tactics. They are coordinating their attacks to overwhelm our defenses. Can you adapt faster than they can?" James asked. "I am attempting to do so," Atlas replied. The battle became a deadly dance in space. The Retribution used its superior speed to avoid being surrounded while trying to damage the alien ships. The aliens worked together, trying to corner the human vessel and destroy it with concentrated fire. "Shield strength down to 30%, Mike reported. "Another hit like that and we will be in serious trouble." Elena was working frantically to modify the quantum cannons. "I am adjusting the weapon frequency," she called out. "Maybe I can find something their shields cannot adapt to." The modified cannon fired, and this time the alien ship took serious damage. Part of its hull was blown away and strange gases began venting into space. "Good hit," Sarah shouted. "The lead ship is damaged, but the victory was temporary." The other two alien ships increased their rate of fire, forcing the Retribution to retreat behind Mars to use the planet as cover. "We cannot keep this up," James realized. "We are outnumbered and they are learning to counter our weapons." "Captain," Atlas said, "I have been analyzing the enemy attack patterns. I believe I can predict their movements well enough to give us an advantage." "Do it." Atlas took partial control of the ship's navigation system, making tiny adjustments to their course that human reflexes could never achieve. The computer predicted where the alien ships would fire and move the Retribution just enough to avoid the worst damage. At the same time, Atlas calculated the perfect timing for the quantum cannons. "Fire now," the computer instructed, and Elena triggered the weapons at the exact moment when the alien shields were weakest. The strategy worked. One alien ship took a direct hit to its engine section and began spinning out of control. The other two ships backed away, apparently surprised by the sudden improvement in human tactics. "One enemy ship disabled," Sarah reported. "The other two are maintaining distance." James saw his opportunity. "Full power to engines." "We are going to ram the damaged ship, Captain." "That is extremely dangerous," Atlas warned. "So is letting them report back to their fleet," James replied. The Retribution accelerated toward the spinning alien vessel. At the last moment, James ordered the shields to maximum power and braced for impact. The collision was tremendous. The human ship struck the alien vessel with the force of a small asteroid. The alien ship broke apart in a spectacular explosion of metal and strange energy, but the impact also damaged the Retribution badly. "Multiple hull breaches," Marcus reported from the engine room. "Main power is down to 40%. "The other two alien ships are fleeing," Sarah announced. James watched the remaining alien vessels disappear into the darkness of space. They had won the battle, but barely, and now the aliens knew exactly what humanity was capable of. "Damage report," James ordered. "Main engines are functioning but damaged," Marcus replied. "Weapon systems are operational but power limited. We can fight, but not at full strength." "How long for repairs?" "In a proper shipyard, 2 weeks minimum." James looked at the tactical display showing the retreating alien ships. They would certainly report back to their main fleet about the human battleship. The next battle would be much harder. "Atlas assessment of our performance?" "The battle demonstrated both the strengths and limitations of our current capabilities," the computer replied. "The enemy is technologically advanced but not invincible. However, they learn and adapt quickly." 3 weeks after the battle at Mars, Captain James Okafor stood in the emergency repair bay on Titan, watching workers fix the damage to his ship. The UES Retribution looked like a wounded giant. Holes in the hull had been patched with temporary plates, and several weapon systems were still being rebuilt. "How much longer?" James asked Marcus Rodriguez, who was overseeing the repairs. "Another week for basic combat capability," Marcus replied, wiping grease from his hands. "But we will not be at full strength for at least a month." James felt frustrated. Every day they spent in repair was another day the aliens could prepare for their next attack. And according to intelligence reports from deep space monitors, the aliens were not wasting time. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres called from the communication station. "Priority message from Admiral Chen." The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen and she looked grim. "James, we have a problem." The alien ships that escaped from Mars have rejoined their main fleet. But that is not the worst news. What is the worst news? James asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. They have brought friends. Long-range sensors show the alien fleet has grown from 20 ships to over 60, and they are all heading for Earth. James felt his stomach sink. 60 ships against one damaged battleship was not good odds. There is more, Admiral Chen continued. They have started attacking our outer colonies. Europa Station went silent yesterday. The mining facility on Ceres is under attack right now. Are there any survivors? James asked. We do not know. The aliens are jamming all communications from the attack sites. But James, the attacks are not random. They are specifically targeting our military installations and supply depots. James understood what that meant. The aliens were not just trying to conquer human space. They were trying to cripple humanity's ability to fight back. How long until they reach Earth? James asked. At their current speed, 6 weeks. Maybe less if they speed up again. 6 weeks. Not enough time to repair the retribution completely, and certainly not enough time to build more ships like it. What are your orders, Admiral? James asked. You are going to have to fight them alone. The rest of our fleet is evacuating civilians from the outer colonies. Your ship is our only weapon that can actually hurt them. After the communication ended, James called a meeting with his senior officers. They gathered in the ship's conference room where the mood was dark and serious. The situation has changed, James told them. We are no longer trying to defend humanity from an unknown threat. We are at war and we are losing. Dr. Elena Vasquez spoke first. Our weapons worked against their ships, but barely. Against 60 ships, we would not last 10 minutes in a direct fight. Then we do not fight them directly, said Commander Maria Santos. We use hit-and-run tactics. Strike fast, cause damage, then retreat before they can respond. Atlas. Analysis of guerrilla warfare tactics against superior numbers, James requested. The ship's computer responded immediately. Historical data suggests that smaller forces can defeat larger ones through superior mobility, knowledge of terrain, and targeting enemy weaknesses. However, this requires avoiding direct confrontation. Can the Retribution fight that kind of war? James asked. Our FTL drive gives us superior mobility, Atlas replied. Our weapons can cause significant damage in short engagements. The primary limitation is our need for time to repair and resupply. Marcus leaned forward. The ship can handle short battles, but we cannot sustain long campaigns without a base to return to. And soon the aliens will control all the bases. James thought about the problem. Traditional military tactics would not work against such overwhelming numbers. They needed to think like pirates or rebels, not like a formal navy. We are going to become ghosts, James decided. We hit them when they least expect it, cause as much damage as possible, then disappear before they can retaliate. That is very dangerous, Elena pointed out. If they catch us, we are dead. If we do nothing, humanity is dead, James replied. Over the next week, while repairs continued, the crew planned their new strategy. Atlas analyzed every piece of intelligence about the alien fleet, looking for patterns and weaknesses. The alien ships operate in groups of 3, Atlas reported. They coordinate their shields and weapons to protect each other. However, this coordination requires constant communication between ships. Can we jam their communications? Maria asked. Possibly. Their communication system uses quantum entanglement, which is very difficult to disrupt. But I may be able to cause temporary interference. Elena had been working on modifications to the quantum cannons. I have been thinking about our power problem. Instead of firing at full strength, we could fire multiple smaller shots. Each shot would use less power but could still damage enemy ships. How many shots? James asked. Instead of 5 full-power shots, we could fire 20 shots at quarter power. Against shields that are not expecting rapid fire, it might be more effective. Test it, James ordered. The modifications took 3 days to complete. When they were ready, the Retribution moved to a safe distance from Titan and began testing the new weapon configuration. The quantum cannons fired in rapid succession, sending a stream of energy burst toward a target asteroid. The individual shots were weaker, but the combined effect was devastating. The asteroid was completely destroyed. Power consumption is 60% of what we expected, Elena reported, and the rapid fire prevents enemy shields from adapting to our weapon frequency. Excellent work, James said. What about our defenses? I have been working on that, said Defense Officer Mike Torres. Atlas and I developed a new shield configuration that provides better protection against multiple attackers. The new defense system used rotating shield frequencies that changed several times per second. Enemy weapons would hit the shields at different frequencies, making it harder for them to adapt. While the Retribution was being prepared for its new role, the war was getting worse. The alien fleet had divided into smaller groups and was attacking human colonies throughout the solar system. Each attack was swift and brutal, leaving no survivors. They are not trying to capture territory, Admiral Chen explained during their daily briefing. They are trying to eliminate us completely. Have we learned anything new about them? James asked. Very little. They do not respond to any communication attempts. They do not seem interested in negotiation or surrender. They just attack and destroy. What about their technology? Our scientists have been studying the wreckage from your battle at Mars. The alien technology is based on principles we barely understand. But we did learn one interesting thing. What is that? Their ships are not manufactured the way ours are. They appear to be grown like living organisms. This might explain why they can adapt so quickly to our weapons. James found this information disturbing. Fighting against machines was one thing, but fighting against something that was partially alive was much more difficult. Are they actually alive? James asked. We do not know. The ship fragments stopped functioning when they were removed from the main vessel. But the technology definitely has biological components. 2 days later, the Retribution was ready for its first guerrilla mission. Intelligence had located a small alien fleet attacking the mining station on Europa. 3 ships, the same configuration they had fought at Mars. This is our chance to test our new tactics, James told his crew. We jump in, cause maximum damage, then jump out before reinforcements arrive. What if they have changed their tactics too? Elena asked. Then we adapt, James replied. Atlas, are you ready? All systems are optimal for hit-and-run engagement, the computer confirmed. The jump to Europa took only minutes. When they arrived, they found the 3 alien ships methodically destroying the human mining facility. The station was already badly damaged, with atmosphere venting into space. No human life signs detected, reported scanner operator Lisa Park. The aliens have already killed everyone. James felt anger build inside him. These beings were not just conquering human space. They were committing genocide. All weapons target the nearest ship, James ordered. Rapid fire sequence. The quantum cannons opened fire with their new configuration, sending a stream of energy bursts toward the alien vessel. The rapid fire overwhelmed the ship's adaptive shields and several shots penetrated the hull. The alien ship staggered from the damage, but the other 2 ships immediately turned toward the Retribution. They fired their purple energy beams, but the human ship's new shield configuration deflected most of the damage. Minimal damage to our shields, Mike reported. The new configuration is working. Target the second ship, James commanded. More rapid-fire bursts struck the second alien vessel. This ship was damaged even more severely than the first, with large sections of its hull blown away. Both target ships are badly damaged, Elena reported, but the third ship is charging some kind of new weapon. Atlas analysis of the new weapon, James requested. Unknown energy signature, the computer replied. Recommend immediate evasion. Jump us out of here, James ordered. The FTL drive activated just as the third alien ship fired. The Retribution disappeared from normal space as a massive energy blast passed through the area where they had been. When they returned to normal space near Titan, the crew was excited. They had struck hard and fast, damaging 2 enemy